In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. This episode is a little bit different from my usual show. I was recently interviewed on the RDO Podcast, and I wanted to share it with you. We discussed a lot of things in the episode, but some of which include balancing the masculine and feminine energy in society and how that fits into our individuality. We talk about the great polarities and the dualities in all of life. And I mention my definition of the true source of wisdom, and I give some examples and tips on how to be more receptive and in your feminine, as well as how to use your intuition. We also talk about being whole and how to be more of your authentic self, which you know is a big theme in my show. And we get into dealing with people's fear of the unknown, which is so common for so many people. They want that certainty before they take a chance or take a leap or summon the courage within themselves to do things. So we get into addressing that common fear of the unknown. And then lastly, I share some personal stuff. I go into a little bit about my story, about becoming a people pleaser, and how I always tried to be a good girl growing up, and how it ended up getting me into a lot of pain and disappointment in my life. But then when I shifted and became more of all of who I really am, and not just living from my predominantly masculine energy, and instead incorporated more of the feminine side of myself as well, and integrated into more of who I am, how my life really started to turn around and change for the better. And I became more balanced and more happy. So I really hope you enjoy the show, and thanks for listening.
Welcome to RDO Podcast. You have officially joined the resistance. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, Amy. Why don't you say hello to our guest, and we will kick off here. Amy Fournier, and you are host to Awakening Aphrodite. If you would just give people a quick rundown, who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing with the podcast.
Hey, Eric, thanks so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here. Like you said, my name is Amy Fournier, and I have my own podcast as well called Awakening Aphrodite. And my show is all about helping people to be more fit in mind, body, and spirit, and be more empowered in their lives, as well as to balance and tap into their masculine and feminine energy and their intuition, their true source of power, and awaken their authentic self. So I really love my show, meeting people like you, and all the things that I'm learning and sharing with other people, because I've been in the health and fitness industry for almost 30 years now. And I had my own health and lifestyle club up in New England, which has recently closed. But I really eat, breathe, sleep, live this stuff. And it's just thrilling to have the platform, such as a podcast, to just share everything I've learned in my experience and continue to learn by all the wonderful guests that we have on the show. So I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have you. Thank you for being on. And I want to really give you a moment to kind of dive deeper into what it is you're actually doing. And I think you laid out a great overhead view and what you're doing with the show. And we've obviously had the group cast. We've kind of had these side conversations, mostly revolving around this great balance between masculinity and, or I should say, masculine and feminine energy. And when we look at the universe, when we look from the microcosm to the macrocosm, and especially within ourselves and all of nature, we see these two elements represented. what does that mean to you in terms of society, in terms of the individual, man or woman, excuse me, man or woman? How does that tie into sort of our everyday lives?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really is the question because it's one of the universal principles of polarity and duality, and all things have a front and a back. All things have a yin and a yang. As you know, that the famous Tao symbol that people can visualize that is half white and half black, and it has a swirly, squiggly line down the middle. But in the white half is a circle of black inside it, and in the black half is a circle of white. So I like to explain this, the concept of the masculine and feminine, the duality principle that is all of existence, not just us as human beings. But I like to give people that visual of the Tao symbol, that the black has the white in it and the white has the black in it, even though either one might be predominantly identifying or more expressive of one than the other, but we are all of it and both. And I think that's a very important concept for people to wrap their brain around and really open their mind to, because first of all, let's just be clear, one is not better than the other. Okay. What we have to understand is we are all of it. And then to have the wisdom and the discretion to know when is it appropriate to express one part of myself more than the other. And we can talk about this too with, I know you are very interested in helping people grow their personal wealth and their independence and their financial freedom, and even start up their own businesses. And it's very important that at times to have the discretion to know when you want to be in that masculine energy, that masculine essence of getting things done and staying focused and all of that. But then really true wisdom comes with going within and sometimes listening to others. So being receptive to advice, opinions, but then weighing it against your own intuition, your soul, your gut. And the best leaders and the ones that are also the most loved and the most successful, happiest people have that balance. They know to play that dance between both sides of them. When is it appropriate to tap in one or the other, right? Because nobody wants a business owner or a leader that just won't listen to anybody, just a big know-it-all type thing and just is not receptive at all. Okay, so that would be someone out of balance in their masculine. But like I mentioned, it's just important that I express to people that my personal view is not that one is better than the other. There's no value judgment. It's more about, again, just knowing that we are all of it. We are inherently all of it. We are born all of it. And having wisdom and discretion to know how to use our own resources. And I'll also say, just to clarify, that when we talk about masculine and feminine, at least for me, it's not a stereotypical thing. Although in those two examples, I kind of gave more stereotypical, but I'm just trying to relate to our audience what I'm talking about. Masculinity and femininity is an essence. I love that you mentioned that in the intro, Eric. You said it's an energy. It absolutely is, because it's not about how you identify. It's not necessarily even about your sexuality or what you have for your sexual organs. It's an essence you're bringing, that you can be more in your feminine when you walk into a room. As a man, you can go home from work and walk into your household with your wife and your child and be in your feminine receptive energy, because work is done. And now you're open, you go with the flow. Maybe your kid throws something at you, your wife screaming, like you just go with the flow. That's very feminine, okay? Rather than if you were in your masculine when you walk in, you were like, oh, where's dinner? We gotta get this done. And, right. Just kind of more directive. So it's all beautiful. It's all good. But like you, my show is about empowering people to know we have choices, and we have choices about how we behave and how we think and what we do and who we are. And we can choose take that moment before you walk in that door to your home. And who am I going to be when I walk in this door? What's my energy like? check in, be self-aware. And that's really what it is all about. So I know I went off on a bit of a tangent, but as you can see, I'm kind of passionate about it.
Definitely. Well, I love it. And I like how you clarified it's not what many people may think when they hear masculine and feminine. They may be thinking male and female, which is a misconception. I mean, that's only, in a lot of ways, that's a generalization that puts a cap on gender, so to speak. Like there's obviously gender is a thing within, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but like within nature, there is male and female of different species. And that's, the basis of procreation. What we're talking about is beyond that. It has to do with behavior and choices based on a certain state of mind or state of being. And back to what we said, it's more of an essence, it's more of an energy. Don't think male, female, think masculine, feminine energy, and apply that principle to reach balance within yourself. Because if you're go, go, go all the time, or you're passive all the time, both of those are going to present an imbalance, I should say. So you talk about being whole, and one of the key ways you describe being able to reach that is in being your authentic self. How do we find that? I think that's a topic that a lot of people try to tackle, and everyone has their own perception about that. What are some ways we can seek to be our true, authentic self?
That is such a great and difficult question to answer, right? But one we're all, I think, seeking as we walk this path. I know I have been. And I would say the first thing that we really have to do is get clear on what are my beliefs that came from me and my gut and my soul and my own voice, and what are beliefs that I think are true that came from outside of me, our cultural programming, well-meaning parents, religious leaders, governmental leaders, whatever they are. So much of the strife and anxiety and frustration that people feel is because they're living lives that they really aren't their own choosing. They're trying to be good people and doing what they should do and they're supposed to do. I did it. I like to say I'm a reformed people pleaser. That's part of what's brought me where I am now. And that's why I'm so into this whole masculine and feminine education, awareness, and balance, because I was excessively in my masculine, trying to be a good girl. I was very close to my dad. My dad had his own business. And, when you have your own business, you're a chef, cook, and bottle washer. It's 24/7. And, I tried to do what dad wanted me to do and, work and pay the price and nose to the grindstone. And too bad if you didn't feel like it. It's got to get the job done. And those are all wonderful qualities and things that I obviously benefited from. However, it was way out of balance. But to get back to your answer, so we have to really, I think, take some time and do some soul searching to be clear on the beliefs I have in my mind, like what is true and how I have to live. Is it coming from me? Am I doing it to make my dad happy? Am I doing it, which most of us do, if we're really honest, to secure love, to secure approval, to secure validation? Oh, you're a good person. Oh, you're a good citizen. Oh, you're a good husband. Oh, you're a good father. And you're killing your soul. You're sucking your soul. You're staying in a marriage out of Catholic guilt that was dead years ago because it's a sin to get a divorce or whatever. I mean, so these are all programmed cultural beliefs, decisions that we run our lives by. And so many people, unfortunately, live, then die, and never even question that I didn't even live the life that I would have chosen. I lived the life for someone else or for other reasons. until sometimes it's too late. So to be our authentic self, we have to get really honest. We have to do some soul searching. We have to spend some time alone. And we have to be willing to pay the price and to be responsible for our choice. You're either going to choose to follow those beliefs, make all these other people happy, and that's what you get. Then you get reinforcement, you get that relationship, you get love, you get that life choice. Or you choose to follow what your heart wants you to do, what your soul wants you to do, what you really are as a person, what lights you up, which makes you sleep at night, which makes you feel satisfaction and happy, and pay the price that you might lose your wife. You might, have a broken home with your children. You might have to close your business. You might make a lot of people not happy, that they don't approve of you because that's not what they wanted, right? Or not based on their judgments or whatever. So, but either way, I think being able to look ourselves in the mirror and have self-respect and self-love and confidence and all those things that we all want requires us to take ownership and sovereignty of our lives. And either way, it's a choice. So I either consciously choose to stay in that soul-sucking job or that relationship that was dead years ago or whatever it may be, and I accept my choice, or I'm going to choose to do this and accept that choice too, the ramifications. And if you're lucky, you've got it set up that you're fulfilling both, right? I mean, that's what we all want. We don't want to have to choose. We want to have the relationship we want, the job we want, the life we want, that feeds our soul, that expresses our soul and who we are and we're passionate about. That's what we all want. But I think that the trouble we get into is, number one, like I said, it's almost like we're brainwashed. We don't realize our thoughts aren't even our own. And then number two, we're afraid to deal with the circumstances that we choose. So we have to grow up, right?
Yeah, there was a lot in that. So I want to unpack a little bit of that. And I think the first step is really taking accountability for your life, period, good or bad, whatever's going on, wherever you're at right now. And then sort of deprogramming first. I mean, we talk about the importance of meditation, the importance of alone time, exercise. A lot of these things lead to that process kind of unraveling itself naturally, I think. I find that whenever I meditate, whenever I go on a long walk, whenever I just wake up early, spend that extra time, writing notes or just kind of sorting my thoughts out, that's where a lot of that process happens, for me at least in specific. So that's a good place to start, kind of deprogramming, sorting out, okay, what is it that I think? What is it that I find important? And from there, I think you can have a better idea of what it is that you actually want out of life or out of your relationship or whatever that may be. So,
and I will admit too, Eric, just to jump in, I will admit that, for decades and years, I did not have the courage to, when I asked those questions of myself, to follow what my heart wanted because of the reasons that I said, because I knew it was going to disappoint people I loved. I knew it was going to hurt people I loved. I knew it was going to make me, quote unquote, look bad or burn in hell because of my religious beliefs or whatever. So I will admit that, what you're seeing now is a person that, I got a long way to go. I definitely have a long way to go. But, I've been walking through the fire, and it takes a lot of courage and backbone to stand up for yourself and your soul, and so we can do all that and we can take the showers and take the nature walks and do the meditation and all that. But remember, when the answers come is when the work starts, because then you have to choose. Are you going to stifle that voice? Or are you going to talk your way out of it and say, well, that's crazy, that's stupid, or I could never do that? Or, are you going to muffle the voice of your soul and your intuition? Or are you going to listen? And that's where I see people split. because they, go through all the justification and all the reason why, and all that. Or like me, out of fear, out of what I was going to lose and who I was going to hurt and who I was going to disappoint. And oh my God, and what are they going to think, right? What are other people going to think?
Right.
So sacrificing my soul. But you know what? It got me to this place eventually anyway. And now I don't like to be like, have regret. But look at all the years I lost, if I only had the gumption. But it is what it is. I guess I had to be an older, wiser person to be able to finally stand up for myself and say, I'm sorry. I did it long enough. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to apologize for really what I want and who I am and how I want my life to be. And I'm sorry if you don't approve, but this is my life. This is my life. And I really want to enjoy, because I've paid my dues. I have paid my dues. It is time for me to enjoy my life. And I'll tell you a secret. It's so much better already. I got a long way to go, but I already feel so much better. I think I probably look 5 years younger even. And people actually said that to me because, it's when you're sucking your soul and just grinding it and just, nothing like stress to age you and make you sick and your body ache and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's just facts. Stress induces this rapid aging effect. I've listened to, what is his name? He's a Dr. Sinclair. I think his first name may be Robert. I may mess up the first name, but look up, for those listening, look up Sinclair's anti-aging research and you're going to be astonished. They found that, for example, in rats, and just a small tangent here, but, in rat and mice studies, when they exposed the rat to high levels of stress, starvation, all this adversity, basically, they literally lead straight to heart disease, cancer, and lifespan is cut. I mean, way down. And they go from natural hair color to the white or the gray. It's no joke. I mean, that's literally what happens.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I've recently kind of gotten to that place of stability within my own life where I'm like not over stressing about the business stuff, not overdoing it, thinking that that's somehow getting me ahead, being out of balance myself in terms of trying to get unstuck. So it's something, okay, I'll let out a secret as well. I'm 26 and I'm not ashamed to say I've had 2 white hairs pop up on my head.
I can't see anything. You're lying.
Yeah. No, I've plucked them out.
Oh my God.
When it goes all white or gray, I'm just going to shave it off. I'll keep the beard though.
Okay. We're going to grow in reverse.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's what it does to you when you're going to like rapidly age yourself. You're going to cut your lifespan down. You're going to lead yourself into high risk for heart attack, stroke, cancer. And this is something that's easier said than done, for sure. Sometimes it's largely circumstantial, meaning like, hey, you were born into poverty or born into some crazy situation that you then have to overcome. And I always say, if you want to get through hell, you have to be willing to go through the fire. And hey, look, you're going to get burned a little bit, but you're going to come out on the other side, and what's the alternative? A living hell. So that said, I think it's worth it no matter I know it's worth it no matter where you are, what your situation is in life. But back to talking about relationships and career choice or business and a lot of these things that are their choices, and sometimes we make these choices based on, like you said, people pleasing, based on what we were told growing up, based on it's sort of like that Maslow's hierarchy of needs for social acceptance and validation and security and all these things can also play against us if we're not in tune with that higher level of ourselves, if we're not used to listening to our intuition and trusting ourselves in making those decisions. So I think it really is key to start now. I mean, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, start now with listening to yourself. Start now implementing this and learning how to navigate life with that element. If not, I mean, it's either going to serve you or it's not, depending on whether or not you use it. So knowing how to use it is key. And the only way to do that is to just get started. Start seeking that positive information, like what's on your podcast. I know you dive deep into this stuff, but it is essential to learn to trust yourself. And I think that can only come by refining those ideas as you kind of sort through what's yours, what's not, what do you want, what was just programmed in your head. It can be hard to distinguish at first because there's a lot of noise upstairs, you know, there's a lot of stuff just cycling through our head to where it can be difficult to know where to get started.
Well, I think even just this conversation of even having the idea that maybe all that chatter that's in your head isn't even coming from you.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is a big first step. I would say probably 80% of the population doesn't even consider where their beliefs and their thoughts come from, right? They don't even question them. So right there to even think like, wait a minute, like, where did even that thought come in my head? Where did I get that belief, that truth, that thing I think is true? You know, we have to be very careful. We should question everything and weigh it against your heart. You know, your heart and your soul will never lead you wrong. Your heart and your soul is love, it's purity, it's essence, it's the divine source. So it's never going to lead you to a place that isn't going to go toward love. And yeah, it might hurt. It might hurt right now, but it's never going to lead you to a place that isn't for your or someone else's best interest ultimately. And I think a lot of problems people have when they go into the chamber of their heart and their soul and question when they have these big issues in their lives is the fear of the unknown stops us. You know, there's so much that, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? You know, and it's what you said. I love what you said about when you face the fire, the only thing you can do is go through it. You can't go around it. You can't go under it. You got to get through the fire by going through the fire. But that's what shapes us, right? And the fire is a transformative element. You know, it's the element of transformation, right? It can turn metal into a sword or whatever.
Right.
So I think that what I'm getting at is I think when people have the choice, it's the fear of the unknown. It's like the devil they know is better than the devil they don't know. You know, well, if I break up with my wife or my girlfriend or whatever, God knows what else is out there. I don't want to be alone, or there isn't any better, whatever, right? Or if I leave this job, or if I go off and really do what I'm passionate about, how am I going to pay the bills? And there's a lot of fear, right? So yes, of course, you have to be reasonable. You have to be smart. You have to think it through. You have to use your brain, right? I mean, don't do anything stupid. And you certainly would never want to do anything that would physically hurt anybody, but you have to be true.
Right.
You have to be true and honest to yourself. And you can do that in a loving way to other people, you know, and follow your own soul in a way that is kind and compassionate and loving to others. Otherwise, you're really not loving them, right? You're lying to them. You're not being honest. And everybody wants to be with someone who's honest. I know I don't want to be with someone who's not honest, you know, but I think it's the change that we're afraid of, is what I'm saying. The unknown stops a lot of people that have good intentions. Like, I want to do it. You know, I got to do it. But what if, you know, and all the unknowns. It's very scary. So you have to have a lot of, I think, you have to cultivate that relationship with yourself to know that, you know what I always say, we were born alone. We come into this world as a soul, and we're going to leave alone. You know, you have to be okay with who you are as an entity, and you have to be whole in yourself and self-sustaining before you can really be with anyone else. Otherwise, you're codependent and you're a parasite.
That's it.
You know what I mean? So we have to be strong in who we are. No, we don't want to be alone. We're social beings. We're supposed to be with other people. And back to the masculine and feminine thing, we're looking for that harmony, that interplay, that one essence, to have that polarity. That's what makes a relationship, right? Even if two people of the same sex come together, they need the polarity to keep the passion, to keep the chemistry. One has to be more on one spectrum than the other. It doesn't matter what your sexual organs are. But what I'm saying is to face the fire, to walk through the fire, to fear the unknown, to risk what you don't know, and the pain of the change requires you being strong in your own core. And that just takes time to cultivate.
And there's something new that's forged in the process. You know, we see this in the analogies of, say, the phoenix, for example. The phoenix has to burn itself down to then rise again from its own ashes, or the metamorphosis that occurs on, say, the hero's journey, or like you brought up, you know, forging something with the elements out of metal, or, you know, this making a sword, or any other analogy you want to use. There's a forging and a transmutation or a metamorphosis that occurs in that process. And that lack of certainty that's holding you back, it's really a sign. It's really a sign that there's something there that needs to be addressed. I know Tony Robbins, I think in Awaken the Giant Within, is the one where he really talks about a lack of certainty. And that's the basis of everyone's problems, is that lack of certainty. So my idea is like following the rope on it. Okay, am I doing this for me? Am I doing this out of the right intentions? Is this my idea? Is this brainwash planted in my head? Following the rope on it all the way to the source, because it does lead somewhere, right? Like every idea has its root. So if you follow that all the way down and say, okay, why do I want to do this? Okay, well, why do I want that? And just keep asking why all the way down. You're going to find that if you do enough of that, you'll sort your head out. You'll sort out what's yours, what's not. And that gives you the freedom, the liberty to proceed forward from there and actually be in charge, be the executive of your own life. So I think some amazing points there, and there's a lot in that. So there's some things here that, you know, these are the big ticket items. This is the big stuff in terms of this balance, but there's also other values associated with this. It's not, everything doesn't necessarily boil down to one simple truth or two principles like masculine, feminine. What are some other values that you incorporate in your life to kind of help you navigate forward?
What are some personal values I have?
Yeah, like what are some things you value in life? It doesn't have to be like necessarily your own philosophy, but what are some principles, habits, things that you value that kind of keep you on track?
That's a good question. Well,
could be daily habits. It could be, you know, just kind of your go-to things that keep you in a balanced state.
Well, again, I didn't grow up healthy. Okay. So I had a lot of health problems personally. And that's what I think led me down the road of being in health and fitness. I also grew up, I was always athletic, but I was overweight. And I was kind of like the cute, chubby girl, And so I had a weight problem not as a child, but through whatever reasons we won't get into through my teens and whatever I did. And I got into health and fitness, and it changed my life because it changed the way people treated me. It changed my self-esteem, obviously, changed my life. And it changed, most importantly, my health. When I was younger, I had a lot of problems, but I mean, they even wanted to put a pacemaker in me when I was in my 20s, and I had issues. But I educated myself, and because I didn't accept that, that's not the life I wanted, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I went down the natural route, and I hate calling it the alternative route. It's not. It's actually the real route. It is the normal route, way before conventional medicine, right? I mean, It was the first. And wow, I mean, completely turned everything around for me. So now, 30 years later, being in health and fitness as a holistic professional, I can say I've never felt better. I am so grateful for learning from so many of my teachers and mentors how to get back to balance our body, mind, and spirit, because they all go together. You can't access your spirit and your higher self when your body aches and when your body doesn't work right. This is our vehicle. This is like an antenna that we are receiving information from the universe. And if our antenna is broken or dusty or dirty or whatever, right, it can't pick up the right information. And, so I have cultivated in my 30 years search, because I wanted to have that life. I wanted to feel good. I mean, I went through that stupid period when I did it for vanity and all of that, like probably all of us did, when I did some modeling and all that stuff. And I got caught up in all of it, I will admit. But I'm so glad I'm older and wiser now to know, like, it's really looking good is wonderful and it's important, but it's about your expression and your energy, and feeling good is what really makes you look good. Because let me tell you, Eric, I lived in Miami when I was doing modeling and all that stuff. I went on shoots, casting calls. I was in commercials, all that stuff. There'd be a room full of models. And I hate to say it, but I never saw a room full of such miserable people in my life that were so self-absorbed and all that stuff. So it is just the shell. It is just the packaging. And truly, our beauty, our essence comes through in our energy, which I also feel incorporates itself or expresses itself physically as well. In our skin. And are you glowing? Are your eyes bright? Is your hair shiny? I mean, the whole body thing, getting your body in balance. But to me, that's why I like to think of myself as a holistic practitioner, because I realize that it is all mind, body, spirit. It all goes together. And there's a lot we can do to affect it, regardless of our genetics, which I had to overcome, regardless of our socioeconomic status, getting fresh air, sunshine, clean water, not eating fast food. These are all choices that has nothing to do with your monetary influence. Getting to bed on time, putting away the damn technology, all that stuff will resource you to be able to think right, to be able to have energy, to want to exercise, to want to move your body. So, sorry, I'm going off a tangent again, but as you say, I'm very passionate about it. But to specifically answer your question, every morning I do a very brief practice. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. If I made it into a big deal, I'd be like, I don't have time. But I do a very brief practice of Tai Chi. And it's very, very simple. It's just basically like a gong. It's a moving energy, because I don't have the bandwidth to sit and meditate. And there's a whole nother discussion we can have about that maybe another day, that meditation is truly a masculine technique. It's a masculine practice, because it's still. Okay. The feminine flows. I'm a dancer. I teach dance fitness classes online. I've taught dance for decades. I also, I teach other fitness classes too. I did the whole personal training and all that stuff too. But dance and flow and music, that's all the feminine. And so my meditation, if you will, is more of a moving meditation. It's very slow, but the most important part of it is the intention behind it. It's my intention to be still, to be quiet, to be in nature, to have that commitment of time with my soul, that I connect to myself. I thank Divine Spirit for everything in my life, and I try to open myself up to the day ahead of me, to the lessons ahead of me, to the wisdom that I ask to guide me, to any messages my soul wants to share with me. I just take those few moments to connect, to give that to myself, and then the world has me the rest of the day, and I'd say, Eric, probably 9 times out of 10, I get some kind of quick download. It might be something as simple as the one I had this morning. I had a podcast on the other day and posted her show yesterday, and it popped in my head, post that book and put it here. Sometimes it's like real specific things. Sometimes it's more esoteric things. Sometimes it's more inspirational things that I'll open my eyes and I'll see the clouds like formed in a certain way, and I'll get an inspiration, something I want to paint, but it's just that time, our love is an action, just like spending time with our partners, our children, our parents, our animals. Love is where your feet are, right? Our priorities are where our feet are. And loving ourselves requires time with ourselves. Even if it's just a few minutes like mine, it doesn't have to be a big deal. But to me, that has been a life changer, and it grounds me every day in who I am, who I want to be, and just putting in just a little bit of time for that part of me in this material flesh and bone world. It keeps that connection. So everyone has to find their thing. You mentioned meditation. Maybe that's your thing. Everyone has to find their thing.
Yeah. If I don't allow for at least like 20, 30 minutes meditation, I find myself getting too aggressive in the sense of trying to assert and project everything that I want to happen with business and life, whatever. I get too wound up, too caught up in the doing, and not enough of that balance. So for me, it really gives me an opportunity to just decompress, let all of the thoughts that I was juggling throughout the day and all the different, points of focus that I was aimed at, just kind of let that all chill out. And then from that, for me, it always comes greater mental clarity. So it in a way, it's much more productive than just go, 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 go. So, and there's different forms. Like I consider walking to be a form of active meditation. So it gets you in a flow state. Like the mind is the body. You'll hear many people say that. Elliot Hulse is probably the first person who introduced that concept to me, but the body is the mind, he always says. So going on a walk or hiking, something that you don't have to cognitively think about what you're doing, you just kind of go. Could be swimming, could be riding a bike, could be walking. These are all more passive physical activities where it turns into, for most people, sort of an active meditation.
Absolutely.
Where it allows you to kind of find that clarity without being in your own head or in your own way. So I like to do both. So I'll do just passive, where I'm just sitting still, normally jumping in the sauna, just sit still, relax and let it happen. And then on the flip side, go for a nice long walk. And I think it's just kind of something we might naturally be doing anyway. And I think it's part of our operating system to naturally carry out these processes, and then functions happen in the background. And sometimes when it's all go, we tend to deprive ourselves of that opportunity. So,
well, we say we don't have time because
right.
we have to do
time.
we got to do the go. We don't have time for that. I got stuff to do.
We're living faster. And I watched an amazing documentary that was talking about how once we got cars, the automobile didn't cut down time, it actually took more time away, because now you get the car and now you can work further away. So now suburbs grew, and now your walking commute that was nearby is now a 40-50 minute drive.
And the same thing goes for microwave ovens, cell phone technology, computers. We thought it helped us do things faster and save time. No, because now we never turn it off.
Yeah, and it all backfires. That's why you really have to maintain your own standards. There's an importance to setting up boundaries.
Yes.
And it's very clear, it's very evident when someone has no boundaries and when they have boundaries in their life. It reflects, like you said, in their health, in their natural beauty, and their energy. It reflects most of all, I would say, in their functionality. And that's something it's usually pretty evident. Does this person have boundaries? Are they actualizing themselves in a way that's allowing them to live a fulfilling life? And that's kind of who we gravitate towards, I think.
Eric, you are so brilliant, because that is the word, boundaries. It is a huge word, We could have a 3-hour show on just talking about boundaries. That people really need to educate themselves more on what really they are, what that means. Obviously, we're talking about emotional boundaries, but it goes back to what we've been talking about too, that self-respect and self-esteem, to draw the line in the sand. Like, I'm sorry if this isn't what you want, but this is my boundary, right? Now, or even just something as simple as work is done, time is done.
Exactly.
Time to be with my family. That boundary. And then you get that tape going, yeah, but you could just send that email and that one's waiting to hear from you. And right. So it's tricky. Boundaries is an area that I suck at. For sure.
It's hard because
we're working on it.
Convenience conflicts with boundaries, because now anyone can call you or text you or reach out on social media at any time. And so you have to choose, okay, am I always going to be accessible? Or am I going to do that at my convenience? So I've made a habit, because again, I'm constantly trying to improve myself. I haven't arrived anywhere. I'm trying to figure everything out like anyone else. And I was at a point not too long ago, like 5-6 months ago, where I was literally doing something from the moment I woke up, emails, this, that, doing something from the moment I woke up to the moment I was going to bed.
Yep.
And it was ridiculous. I was started to have insomnia. I was very irritable. I was missing out on family time. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not any more productive when I break it down. I'm more busy, but not any more productive. And there's a big difference. And setting those boundaries, even if that's, okay, TV's off at 8:30 or 9 o'clock or whatever your schedule is, you have to set those boundaries. And I think those are some key principles that anyone can take and just instantly start living a better life.
Right on.
Well, Amy, I really appreciate you being on today. I want to give you an opportunity before we actually sign off here to just put out any final thoughts to our audience, and then we'll close out and call it a wrap.
Let's see. Any final thoughts?
If they take one thing from our conversation today, what would you have them take away?
I would just say what I like to say to people in general is, where there's life, there's hope. If you're still breathing, it's not too late. And that it doesn't matter any of the circumstances, that for you to start opening your mind to consider everything we've talked about, that maybe we don't know everything. Maybe the truth is something different, and to start to really learn who you are, who you were born to be, what your soul came here to express, what makes your heart sing, and then do the work, put in the time to learn about that, and take the steps you need to do to fulfill your life, and that getting on the other side will be worth it. Take it from people that are there, who walk through the fire, that are getting there. that are climbing and kicking and screaming, but they're getting there because you can do it. We all go through it. Like Eric mentioned, it's the hero's journey. It's the heroine's journey. It's the growing up stage. It's the self-actualization that we all need to step into, like Carl Jung said. But that's what we're here for, and that you can do it. You can do it.
Amazing. This really has been an incredible discussion. There's a lot of value. I mean, we broke it down pretty well, I think. So hopefully for those listening, hopefully you found something insightful from this. If you want more of this, be sure to check out Amy's podcast, Awakening Aphrodite, as well as Resist, Defy, Object, where we have more amazing guests like Amy, and we cover topics like this in depth and really just allow for that long form discussion where these ideas are able to grow and transpire and actually reach people. So remember, you don't need permission to do you.
Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.